We are making our voice heard. There are a few other Christians who want nothing but peace with Israel. We want peace with Israel, and we want the Hezbollah driven out of Lebanon. And we're trying to get this point across to the administration because we cannot trust the Lebanese army. We cannot trust the Lebanese government. And I can tell you, the Lebanese Christians in the south, like me, want Israel to just go in, put the border past the Litani River, and call it a day and make it a part of Israel. They want to have peace.
Really?
They do not want to have.
Wow.
Yes,
So they
yes.
would be willing to become part of Israel and Israeli citizens.
As of yesterday afternoon at 5 p.m., when I was talking to Lebanon, that's exactly the sentiment.
Brigitte Gabriel is a national security expert, the chairwoman of actforamerica.org, and the author of the books Because They Hate and They Must Be Stopped, and her newest book called Rise. You can visit her website at www.brigittegabriel.com, and we will put a link to her website on our page where this show is podcasted. Okay, welcome. It's been a long time. You used to be like a weekly guest on my show for a while, and it was such a pleasure having you on. It's good to see you.
Oh, thank you. I'm delighted to be back with you. Whatever happened to you? I was delighted to see your name when my publicist sent me the list of interviews, and I'm like, Tamar Yonah, of course I'll do Tamar Yonah.
I'm blushing now. I'm so excited to see you. You're always the sunshine. And your sunshine, your needed sunshine right now, because the West does not understand the East, doesn't understand the mentality. It doesn't understand the reality here. And they're in their own little dream bubble, most of them. And so we're going to try to work this out today during our interview. So in your book, Rise, you basically are calling for people to rise to action. But most people, Brigitte, want to stay in their little comfort zone. They don't want to have to leave it and do something. So, with this book, what are you hoping to achieve? Tell us why you wrote it and why you chose that title.
Well, Tamar, since you and I first met and got to know each other in 2003, can you believe it's over 20 years now?
Yeah.
We've been doing this together. We've been talking about the same issue, the rise of radical Islam and its threat to world peace and national security. And here we are, 2 decades later. We are seeing the problems right before our eyes. Everything we talked about 20 years ago, it has become reality. So I wrote the book Rise. Well, my first book, Because They Hate, laid out the problem, what we are dealing with. Why do the radicals do what they do? Because they hate. And their hatred is so severe, blinded, all-consuming. You saw after the October 7th attack, even people on the left in Israel who did not want to recognize or acknowledge that this level of barbarism could exist by any people after October 7th, I think a lot of these questions were put to rest, unfortunately. I wrote that to open people's eyes. People were suspicious. I don't know about that. Maybe this is just a radical minority. My second book was titled, They Must Be Stopped, Why We Must Defeat Radical Islam and How We Can Do It. People still turn the blind eye to evil. I wrote Rise in defense of Judeo-Christian values and freedom because our Judeo-Christian values are under attack right now. We are truly witnessing a clash of civilization. We are witnessing the clash between Western civilization, the values that built Western civilization. Western civilization was founded on Judeo-Christian values. This is why in our culture, we teach our children, do unto others what you want others to do unto you. Whether people are practicing faithful Jews or Christians or not, even the atheists in our culture teach their children, Now, Sam, I want you to treat others the way you want to be treated. Even if they have never read the Bible, do not know anything about any faith whatsoever. We are a culture that teaches our children to be kind, to not judge others, to treat others the way we want to be treated. It's who we are. But we are facing people who do not share those values. And the problem right now is the West. In the West, we are reflecting our Western values on evil people, thinking, of course, they're just like us. Well, they are not just like us. And the reason why I wrote my book and what makes it so different than any other book is it's not just informational. All books inform, all books educate. But at the end of every chapter in my book, no matter what issue I'm discussing, whether the internet being the new theater of war, whether the indoctrination in our schools, or whether how the left and the Islamists are working together. At the end of every chapter, I have a section titled Rise Up and Act, where I give people 3 action items they can do in the comfort of their home under 10 minutes that can make a difference for our countries and for our civilization.
That's really important to get those tools. I'm afraid to ask you what they are because I do want people to go out and get your book and support Act for America and all that you do, because really this is a war of civilizations, and
Yes.
there are better civilizations with values and ideas. I mean, people are people, but if people adhere to a certain ideology, this is very, very bad. Like, you don't want people to be Nazis. You want people to be freedom-loving people, etc. So in that vein, let's talk about in your book, you talk about that you believe that Western values are eroding, foreign and domestic. How do you see that playing out today, especially with the war with Iran and other Mideast players involved now?
Well, in the old days, speaking about Western values are eroding. In the old days, we had something called patriotism. We came together. So I'm in the United States. So people that immigrated to America, out of many, we became one. Uno pluribus unum is on our money. Out of many, we became one. People that came to this country wanted to be a part of the American fabric. They loved their country. They understood that in America, we had something better than many other nations across the world. They understood that the opportunities in America, human rights in America, the respect for the individual in America, the protection of the individual's right in America was something so sacred and so wonderful, very different than many other countries in the world, including our freedom of speech, for example. In the United States, you are able to criticize the president, you're able to criticize the vice president, you're able to criticize your member of Congress, and know that nothing's going to happen to you because you are protected under freedom of speech, contrary to many other countries. Like if you criticize the mullahs, if you're living in Iran, or whether you criticize
if you're living in London, the same thing
even
today.
in London right now. So what we're seeing in America is that we have imported people or allowed people to come to our country, whether they came on student visas, whether they came as a part of the visa relocation programs, whether they came, however they ended up in the United States. After October 7th in the United States, and even before October 7th, I mean, I take it back even for the last 10 years, we have seen a movement across the United States where the Islamists have been so emboldened that they wave their Palestinian flags or their ISIS flags or their Al-Qaeda flags and burn the American flag and burn the Israeli flag and chant "Death to America" on our streets. And because of our freedom of speech, they have been able to get away with it. But right now we are at a point in our country where the enemy is already within our borders. And our enemy is already working to brainwash the youth in our country, and not just the youth. They are brainwashing adults who don't know any better, who could care less about the Middle East. They never followed the news because it doesn't affect their lives. America is a big country. Or anywhere in Europe, Europeans, Westerners, live and let live. We don't care what others do. So now we are seeing an element growing within our society that despises our culture, whether in Europe, whether in the United States, whether in Australia, whether in Canada. It doesn't matter what major Western country you point to. There's a radical Islamic element rising within these countries because of immigration that resents everything we stand for. And this became apparent, especially after we got into the war with Iran. Because right now, for example, at the beginning of the war, you saw a lot of European countries who did not want to get involved in the war because of the Islamic element within their nations. They were afraid to make any decisions because of the backlash internally, whether in France, whether in England, who did not even want to allow us to use our bases in Europe, as America was at war with Iran. And the reason why they did not want us to use our bases in their European countries is because they were afraid of the big Islamic bloc and its political power in their nations, whether Germany, whether England, whether France, whether whatever country in Europe, members of NATO, who were so afraid of their own people and their voting and their political influence within the country that affected their relationship with the United States. So now we are fighting a global enemy, Iran, who is developing a nuclear weapon. We knew they were developing it, who wants to wipe Israel off the map. They want to attack America as well. They now have developed weapons that can reach any country in Europe. And so even with that, the Europeans were afraid to get into the fight. And this is a major problem because right now you are seeing the problem affecting the world, not just Israel.
So knowing all of this, that Europe is weak, the United States with Donald Trump as president is showing a lot of muscle finally and trying to somehow contain Iran. And about this containment, we hear all the time about that President Trump wants to make a deal with the IRGC, and he wants a good deal. Do you think that making a deal with the IRGC is a good idea? I mean, after all, it could prevent war, right? So what do you have to say?
Absolutely not. We cannot make a deal with Iran. We cannot trust any deal with Iran, at least not with the current Iranian leadership, the Islamic radicals who are running the country. If this was the replacement of the Shah, for example, with his son or somebody moderate that we can deal with, that's a different story. But what we are dealing with right now is we are dealing with the radical regime. And we don't really know exactly who's running the country right now. We know for a fact that the IRGC is controlling whoever. Basically, they are still running the country. It doesn't matter what the prime minister or whoever they're putting up as president. We don't even know if he's alive or dead, or whoever Ayatollah right now supposedly representing the country. We know that it's the radical element still running the country and calling the shots. And the only reason they want to make a deal with the United States or appear as if they want to make a deal is they are stringing the America along, trying to buy time. So now after yesterday with the, over the weekend, the deal, whatever that the Iranians want, and America may agree to the 60-day ceasefire, the biggest mistake we can make, because that takes the ceasefire into July. And by then, you're basically talking a month before everybody's gearing up for the midterm election in the United States. And Iran is trying to drag this whole negotiation thing, trying to get President Trump as close as possible to the midterm, knowing that the Republicans would lose the midterm. The president is not going to get into a fight with Iran again and start bombing right before the midterm. America is very concerned about the war. They do not want war. Even within the conservative movement, there's an element like the Candace Owens and the Tucker Carlsons and the Megyn Kelly and the Steve Bannon who do not want war with Iran. They believe that Israel is convincing President Trump to get into the war with Iran, as if anybody can manipulate President Trump to do anything. The reality is Iran is lying. We cannot trust them. They have a track record of lying. This did not start yesterday. They have been lying from one administration to the other. They lied to the Obama administration. They lied to the first Trump administration. They lied to the Biden administration. And here we are again. So this is our only opportunity for the president to really tighten the screws on Iran. I believe President Trump understands the Iranian. He doesn't trust them. I'm not sure. He may know something that you and I, Tamar, are not privy to, that's making him make the decisions that he is making. President Trump is smart enough to know that you cannot trust the Iranians as much as he wants to make a deal. So there must be something behind the scenes that we do not know that's driving the president to do this. We'll see how this plays out. But I can tell you one thing for sure. The Iranians are going to have to be wiped out militarily, or their own people have to wipe the current leadership militarily. I know that President Trump will not leave office before the end of his term without making sure that Iran is no longer a threat to the United States. At least we can be assured of that.
Let's hope so. Now, Iran, we know, is the head of the octopus. They've got their proxies like the Hezbollah, the Hamas, etc. And I want to talk about Lebanon for a moment because you're from Lebanon originally. And what do you see as the best future for Lebanon right now? Because they're touting, or President Trump is trying to, make some type of ceasefire with Lebanon, and the Hezbollah is still operating. The Lebanese government, let's face it, it's weak. It can't do anything. It can't fight Hezbollah. There's nothing to even negotiate with the Lebanese government because it's flaccid. It can't do anything. So knowing that as long as the IRGC is in power in Iran and feeding the Hezbollah as much as it can, what do you see as the best way to handle the situation in Lebanon also?
I don't believe in ceasefires. It's like when you're doing surgery on cancer. You cannot do it in stages. You've got to go in and uproot cancer all at once in the same surgery, and then follow up with chemotherapy, radiation, whatever is required to ensure that even after you uprooted all the cancer, that there's no chance whatsoever of any one cell remaining alive after surgery. Hezbollah is the cancer of Lebanon. The Lebanese government is not a government. It's a shell of a government. Not only they do not have any power, a lot of them are sympathizers with Hezbollah because Hezbollah has purchased the government of Lebanon. Iran has purchased the government of Lebanon. So when you look at Nabi Berri, for example, who's been on the payroll, we found out, who's the head of the Shia, who's been getting paid $500,000 a month from the Iranians for all these years. Nabi Berri is in the pocket of Hezbollah. He's not going to change. So you've got all the corrupt people in the government who are the government. So what we need to do, the best scenario that I see right now for Lebanon, do not do a ceasefire. Even the Christians in Lebanon do not want a ceasefire. I know that because I talk to my Christian friends in the south, in Beirut, all over the place. They do not want a ceasefire. They want Israel to just finish the job, kill them all and drive them out. What the Christians in Lebanon really want, and this is what they are hoping and working on right now, is getting all the Shiites who have been replaced out of South Lebanon, driven out of South Lebanon, go to Iraq. Go to Iraq. Build a life in Iraq. There's a lot of Shiites in Iraq. Go there. Go to Iran. Get out of Lebanon. Their towns have been demolished, bulldozed. They're not going to be able to go back and build. Get them out of Lebanon to another country. So instead of them sleeping on the streets in Lebanon, they can go live in another Shiite country. If we can make that happen, then a lot of Christians who are maybe living overseas, who left Lebanon because of the war, will be able to go back, build, invest, etc. But looking at the status quo right now, it cannot happen. Even the Lebanese army is against the Lebanese people. Don't listen to this facade that they talk about. Oh, the Lebanese army is working. They're going to disarm Hezbollah. I was just talking to my friends in Marjayoun, okay? Marjayoun, right on the border with Metula. They are so angry that the Lebanese army is still in town at the military base, that Israel has not been able to advance and seal off Marjayoun the way it did with other Christian towns, because now the Lebanese army at the base in Marjayoun is threatening the Lebanese people, the Christian people of the town, calling them traitors, calling them for private interrogation, and calling them traitors to Israel. You are agents of Israel. This is what's happening now between the Lebanese army, who's supposedly protecting the Christians of the town. That's what they're doing to the Christians of the town, because they're all Hezbollah operatives. And so the Lebanese army is Hezbollah. The Lebanese government is not only cowards, but they also have Hezbollah. So Israel has to do whatever Israel has to do to finish the job.
Yet we have our hands tied a bit because President Trump is not letting Israel do everything it needs to do. So what would you say about that?
I am working on that. Let's put it this way. I am working on that on the American side to make sure President Trump understands what the Christians in Lebanon are going through, what the Lebanese army is all about. We are making our voice heard. Me and there are a few other Christians who want nothing but peace with Israel. We want peace with Israel, and we want the Hezbollah driven out of Lebanon. And we're trying to get this point across to the administration, because we cannot trust the Lebanese army. We cannot trust the Lebanese government. And I can tell you, the Lebanese Christians in the south, like me, want Israel to just go in, put the border past the Litani River, and call it a day and make it a part of Israel. They want to have peace.
Really?
They do not want to have. Yes.
Wow. So they would be willing to become part of Israel and an Israeli citizens.
As of yesterday afternoon at 5 p.m. when I was talking to Lebanon, that's exactly the sentiment. But the Christians are so afraid to verbalize this stuff. They cannot talk about it publicly because, like I said to you, even in Marjayoun, where the Lebanese army is in the military base, 5 kilometers from the border of Betula, even the Christians in Marjayoun are being called in and being interrogated. And the Lebanese army is going back to the old days. Oh, you traitors, you worked with Israel. You are agent of Israel. We cannot trust you. And so people are afraid to open their mouth. And even people in America who have relatives in Beirut who are Lebanese or who, they are afraid to speak up, because what if somebody found out we said something? Yeah, they're going to go back and kill our aunts, uncles, cousins, nephews, nieces in Beirut. So everybody's lips are tied because they are afraid for their lives.
So talking about all the restrictions and the lack of freedom living under a power that's Islamic extremist like this, I want to read something from your website. It says here, from the war-torn bomb shelter of Lebanon to the boardroom of America, Gabrielle is a startling illustration of the American dream, an inspiration for women throughout the world. She has balanced the demands of a successful career with the equally challenging duties of motherhood and grandmotherhood now too, I understand. So what are the chances that women in any other Arab or Islamic country could attain something similar to what you have now living in a Western free country?
As you know, women in the Middle East do not have any rights in the majority Islamic countries. And even in Lebanon, do you know I cannot pass, well, I don't have a Lebanese citizenship anymore because Lebanon revoked it in 2006 because I'm a friend with Israel. So in 2006, I was giving an interview on CNN. This is in the 2006 war when Israel went into Lebanon. And I wrote an article saying, bomb, bomb, bomb them, talking about Hezbollah. And so CNN had an interview with me. As I was leaving the studio, getting in my car in front of the studio, I got a call on my cell phone. I answered the call. It was somebody from the Lebanese embassy saying, consider your Lebanese citizenship revoked. This is back in 2006. And now they want me dead by absentia because I'm friends with Israel and I sided with Israel, etc. But if I was still a Lebanese citizen, as a woman, my children will never be Lebanese citizens because I don't have the right as a woman to pass my citizenship to my children because women don't have right in Lebanon. This is what most people don't understand, which is mind-boggling. People in the West assume that, in Lebanon and Beirut, people party, women have rights, they have a right for an education, they can do whatever they want. Yes, but they don't even have basic rights to decide. If I got married to somebody, I can keep my citizenship and I can pass it to my children. And so this gives you a glimpse. And by the way, Lebanon is the most modernized, civilized, because we were majority Christians. We have mostly majority Christian laws in the country, that even in Lebanon, we cannot do that. So as a businesswoman in the United States, I came here with almost nothing, and I built a life from nothing to what I am today. Because in America, the sky is the limit. In the Middle East, you don't have that. Women do not have a right to get a passport without the permission of their father, their husband, their guardian, or whatever. They need the permission from their father or their husband to be able to work or go to college. And we take it for granted in America that, or in any Western nation, that we actually have the right to decide over our bodies, over our mind, what we want to do with our lives, our children. This is something that they don't have in the Middle East. I'm a woman in the United States. I started my nonprofit organization, Act for America, and I encourage everybody watching right now. You need to go to actforamerica.org and see the work that we do. Sign up to receive our emails and action alerts, especially if you are an American citizen, whether you're living in Israel or living in the United States or whatever you're watching us on right now, because we monitor bills coming down for a vote, and we notify you about bills that can affect you and Israel. After the war with Israel, we had an Act Now campaign called Stand with Israel. Over 7 million emails and phone calls went to Congress through our website from our members, calling our members of Congress to stand with Israel, unleash the purse strings, support financially, provide them with bombs, whatever Israel needed to do the job. And so go to actforamerica.org. So I started my organization as a mother, and here I am today as a grandmother. Continue my work as an activist, as its chairwoman and CEO of my organization. I'm chair of the board. I can have my cake and eat it too. I can be a mother, a grandmother, and a businesswoman, and nobody can tell me or dictate to me what I'm allowed to do or what I'm not allowed to do. I have free reign. They don't have that in the Middle East.
So saying that Lebanon is the most modernized Arab and half Islamic country, and even a woman there cannot get a passport on her own, why do we see liberal progressives in the United States and in Europe with blue hair, with the LGBTQ, RSTUVWXYZ, all marching for Hezbollah, for Iran, for the mullahs, for Islamism? What don't they get? I mean, if they went to visit Gaza, they would be for who they are. And in Israel, they wouldn't. In the United States, they don't. In Western countries, they aren't in danger. But in these countries that they're marching for, they would be. Explain to me, what are they missing?
Because they are nitwits. That's why they are dimbats who get their information from social media. They're not watching the news. They're not educated like you and I when it comes to world affairs. And they are driven by pure emotions. It's like, don't confuse me with the facts. I already made up my mind. That's the problem. And it's like you said, all these blue-haired, green-haired women with nose earrings, lip earrings, whatever earrings, eyebrow earrings, with the black nail polish, marching for pro-Palestine, the lesbians, the gays. Go to the Middle East. Why don't you go try that in any Middle Eastern countries, from Palestine to Jordan to any Middle Eastern countries? What will happen to you? They are the useful idiots used at the hands of Islamists to advance the goal. But you know what? Every country has its own useful idiots. And this is why we have to mobilize our own base to come out, be active, be engaged, and stop trying to convince those other people to see it our way. You know, I'm a firm believer a man convinced against his will is of the same will still. Don't waste your breath trying to change the minds of nitwits who are not going to listen to whatever facts you give them. We need to get our people to wake up and start becoming more engaged, more active politically as activists, not just sending information out. This is why I named my organization Act for America. Not think about America, not hope for America, not think about America, not wish for America, but what? Act for America, because education is important, but education by itself is not sufficient. Action is required to make an impact, political impact. And that's why I named my organization Act for America. So we need to emphasize less on education, and we need to mobilize our people to take action.
One of the themes in your book called Rise is the idea of a peaceful majority being irrelevant when threats exist. On your website, it's written 2% of the passionate will always rule the 98% of the indifferent. Explain that to our listeners.
Well, in the West, especially since 9/11, 2001, because that's when the West woke up to the threat of radical Islamic terrorism. And everybody started talking, no, we cannot paint with a wide brush. What about the moderate majority? The moderate majority. We've heard it from everybody. Well, the headline news every night is not about the moderate majority. It's about the few radicals who are blowing buildings up, committing suicide attacks, committing suicide bombing, but killing innocent civilians. The evening news is not about the what I call irrelevant moderate majority. And so I talk about the history lessons from the past. We have got to learn from history. There has always been moderate majority throughout the world for centuries. They were irrelevant. And there's a clip of mine that went viral on social media in 2014 when I answered the question where an Islamic activist posing as a student at a panel where I was speaking asked the question, well, what about the moderate majority? Here you're talking about Islam, which, by the way, we're never talking about Islam. And I said, well, thank you for asking that question. But since you asked the questions, here are things I wanna present. And I said, throughout history, when you look at Nazi Germany, not all Nazis were German. Most Germans were peaceful. Yet the Nazis drove the agenda, and as a result, dragged the whole world into war. Over 60 million people died, 14 million in concentration camps. 6 million were Jews. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at China, for example, most Chinese were peaceful, yet China was able to kill 20 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Russia, for example, most Russians were peaceful, yet Russia was able to kill 80 million. No, sorry. The Chinese were able to kill 80 million. The Russians were able to kill 20 million. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan, most Japanese prior to World War II were peaceful people. Yet Japan was able to butcher its way across Southeast Asia, killing people with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at the United States on 9/11, we had 2.3 million Muslim Americans living in the United States. It took only 19 hijackers to bring America down to its knees, destroy the World Trade Center, attack the Pentagon, and kill almost 3,000 people on that day. The 3 million people were irrelevant. And so for all our powers of reasons and discussing the moderate majority, they are irrelevant, because what we are dealing with, the people that kill are the radicals. The people that commit suicide bombings are the radicals. And that's our focus. When you're trying to kill cancer, You don't talk about, it's a small cell. You've got a 5 millimeter cancer cell in your lung, but the rest of your body is great. Your legs are looking fantastic. Your arms are very toned. Look at these beautiful nails that you have. Your hair is fantastic. That's irrelevant. You have a 5 millimeter cancer cell on your lung, you have a problem. And until you operate and remove that cancer cell will kill you, guaranteed. And that's why we in the West need to throw political correctness in the garbage and start calling a spade a spade. We are fighting radical Islam. Not radical Judaism, not radical Buddhism, not radical Hinduism, not radical Christianity, not radical atheism. We are fighting radical Islamism, and that's the reality we are dealing with. And I encourage people, if you want to join me in this fight, go to actforamerica.org right now. actforamerica.org. Join us, become a member, sign up to receive our emails and action alert. We're not only fighting for the United States, but we are also fighting for Israel and for Western civilization.
Yeah, and I just want to add something here that most people don't realize that it only takes a very small, you said 2%. I remember once reading an article, they said 5%, but it doesn't matter. But if they're willing to be violent, the rest of the people are going to fall in line. And just imagine that you have a pickup truck full of Hamasnikim or anybody, any type of Islamic fighters going down your street, shooting their rifles in the air, their machine guns in the air, and screaming that everybody better stay in their house, and everybody does because they're afraid to go outside, and people shut their windows, their shutters, because they don't want to be the one chosen. And you're going to fall in line with people who are willing to be violent. And that's most of America. I mean, thank goodness America has the Second Amendment, right? Where people can have hold arms and try to fight, but still it's going to be bloody. And it's I think that a lot of the Americans who are unaware of the mentality, and they're willing to not just kill, but they're willing to die, and that therefore there's no negotiation with people who are willing to die, that they really have to just stand up now and not sit on the fence anymore and really start acting, as you're saying. So last question I want to ask you, if you could leave our audience with one key idea or call to action from your book, Rise, what would you want them to remember long after this interview is finished?
Education is important, but is not sufficient. Education must be coupled with action. We on the right, the thinkers, the intellectual, we like to get educated. We want to listen to every podcast we can because we want to understand the issue. We want to write articles about the issue. We want to read articles about the issue. We want to be informed. Meanwhile, we're sitting getting educated and being informed while the Islamists and the leftists are being mobilized against us. They are taking action. And I consider this, if you're watching this podcast, you have been just entertained. This is not impacting policy. You might as well be watching Dancing with the Stars, because this does not help the passage of any bill in any government. This is just education. And our side needs to understand that in order for you to start impacting policy, you need to start showing up in demonstrations on the streets. For example, tonight we're having a major rally in front of Gracie Mansion in New York, in front of Mamdani, demonstrating against Zohran Mamdani. We're turning out people with the thousands. We sent an email to all our members within New York within a 2-hour drive. Show up, get your voice heard. We need you on the street. We need you engaged. It's not enough to sit in front of your computer and read articles and get educated and think, I vote every 2 years or every 4 years or whenever there's an election. A lot of things happen on a daily basis between these 2 years or 4 years where you vote. You've got to be engaged because the enemy is engaged and we must be engaged.
And you'll make new friends at these rallies that you go to, so don't...
That's right.
There was one question I wanted to ask you, which I forgot, and that is, do you think that Europe has a future, or is it gone already and it's just a matter of time until it officially becomes Eurabia?
It breaks my heart to answer that question because I am the ultimate optimist. I'm the one who always sees the glass half full, even though there's just a drop of it. I always think, it may rain and then it's going to fill the glass. So that's me. I'm the positive person 100%. Having said that, I hope that the Europeans, it's beautiful that we are seeing the Europeans waking up right now, taking to the streets. Look at the movement that Tommy Robertson is doing in England. Look at the rally they just had.
Right.
Look at the parties in Europe right now, like Geert Wilders in the Netherlands. I mean, there are parties right now who are running and winning on fighting the Islamic immigration, which is wonderful. The sad reality is, I think they are a little too late to the game, because right now it's a numbers game. And right now the Islamists have enough numbers on their side and enough power and influence. I mean, look at England. Every major city in England has a Muslim mayor, to the point where England was afraid, England, our strongest ally, afraid to stand with the United States and NATO in bombing Iran. So this is the level of influence they already have in Europe. And so the sad reality is, I hate to say, Europe is heading into the dark ages. Hopefully a miracle can happen and things can change. But looking at Europe right now, Europe has become Eurabia, and it is very sad and unfortunate.
Yeah. And they're having children and Europeans aren't. And
Right.
that's a major force as well.
That's right. Europeans, our children, here's the problem with the kids on the right, not on the right, Western children. They are coming out of the closet, being gays and lesbians who do not want to get married, do not want to procreate, do not want to have children. You cannot survive as a society when almost a lot of your members are deciding, we don't want to have children, we want to enjoy life. You add to that the young generation who want to pursue a career. I want to pursue a career. I want to go to college. I don't want to get married before I'm 35 years old. And then all of a sudden they're 35 years old. They can only have one child. You cannot survive as a nation with having only one child. And so this is what the West is facing. Unless we start promoting marriage, families, having children, the blessing of children, the enjoyment you get out of children, not out of dogs, not out of cats. It's wonderful to have a family pet, I understand that the pleasure of having a family pet, but nothing replaces children and grandchildren. You are a grandmother, I'm a grandmother. We know the blessings, the joy that family brings. And I think until we start encouraging that in the West, we are doomed.
Everybody, go now. Don't wait. Go now to actforamerica.org and sign up there. Check it out. Get Brigitte's book and talk to other people. And really, no more sitting on the fence now. It is do or die. And they are willing to do and die. So the West has to they got to show muscle. Otherwise, you're going to be overrun. So thank you again, Brigitte Gabriel. It was a pleasure and a joy to have you on and to see you again. God bless you. Keep you strong. And God bless America. God bless Brigitte Gabriel. God bless Israel and all the friends of freedom around the world as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure being with you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, to make sure you can get access to all of our interviews, make sure to hit the subscribe button on both our YouTube and Rumble channels. Your click makes us all stronger. Thanks.